God save the Queen. Fascist regime. They made you a moron, a potential bomb. God save the Queen. She ain't no human being. There is no future. An alien's dreaming. Don't be told what you want. Don't be told what you need. There's no future. There's no future. There's no future for you. God save the Queen. We need it, man. We love our Queen. God saves. God save the Queen. Some money, and I figure ahead, it's not what she seems. Oh God, save history and save your mad parade. Oh Lord, God have mercy, all crimes are paid. I don't really know this song. So maybe a guitar solo? God save the Queen. We need it, man. We love our Queen. God saves. Okay, and then we'll just go to the end, hey? No future, no future for you. No future, no future for you. No for you. Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten, Sid Vicious, another couple lads. Sex Pistols. Okay, that was another tribute to the Queen, not the Queen Mother, that Madge, Her Majesty. Her Majesty. I was watching a bunch of videos today, and actually quite emotional, and please forgive me for any unintended disrespect. Being an American chap as myself, I don't quite understand the weight and significance that the royalty holds in your culture and country. It reminds me of a story. I met this guy, Britt. I don't know if he was Cockney, but I'd say he was Cockney. He was younger than me. He was a young guy, and he was telling me stories about the Serbian military action, and he was a machine gunner in there. And he was telling me like what they would do is they would get word of a formation somewhere in the woods, and they would just fire in the general direction, and until the return fire stopped. And anyway, he had joined the army when he was like 16 or something like that. And apparently you don't get paid if you're under age. I don't know what the age is, I'm talking out my ass, but let's presume it's like that. And he said, 2 years for the Queen. I said, oh man, that's bullshit. He said, it's not bullshit. And this was perhaps a problem of translation as to what this word means in American as opposed to what it means in British. So when I was saying it, I meant that's a raw deal, you should have been paid. And perhaps what he was saying is that either in the same sense of the word there, that no, it's not, I was glad to do it, or I'm telling you the truth. It's sort of like other words that have different meanings in American as they do in British, such as like, well, cunt, for example. they throw cunt around like Americans. Well, they throw fuck around like Americans throw fuck around. So those Brits, not as polite as you might suspect. And well, I guess they choose their moments. And another word, fanny. So let's see. Okay, so our update. Okay, here we go. So this one I'm calling finished. This is called, let's see, what is it called? I know it's Rue de Rigole. It's 3739 Rue de Rigole. Okay, and I'm calling it. Now I'm putting some varnish on it, some acrylic gloss varnish, and it's either my imagination or it seems to be bringing out the background motif or the background randomized collage in the background there, and knocking back the white a little bit. Or it could, what do you think? It could all be my imagination, and I signed it, not as discreetly as generally. But when I first signed it, are you like me? I signed it 2020. It's like it's like we time warped 2 years into the future, all of us. A few dozen months into the future for some reason. So I cleverly changed that 0 into a 2. Isn't that nifty? So anyway, the varnish is helping a little bit, but what I did was I used a different technique on here. It's mixed media, so I've got spray paint here, I've got collage here. I'm using Posca paint pens, if you know what those are. They're really nice, but they've got a flat finish. I'm using ink, mixture of inks. I've got 6. I've got black and white, sepia ochre, carmine, and what's the other? Sanguine. So I think, and what else am I using? Oh, and also I'm using some felt tip pens. So I don't know if you can probably not see it so much in this light, but there's all different, depending on how the light hits it, different parts stand out. And since this is surrealist or fantasy, regardless, and graphic, I don't really mind, and I think people will like it. But I'm sort of experimenting right here. I like using the ink here. You see, it's because it's sort of randomized and chaotic, and you aren't sure how things are going to turn out. And so it's nerve-wracking, but it's also kind of fun to see what the results are. You have to try to force your will on the elements there. So I'm also started painting the stovepipes on this, the terracotta stovepipes on this one, which is again the same subject matter as a rectangular one. Well, this is technically a square is a rectangle, but the non-square rectangle, the one I did before, and you see this one has come quite along here, but it still needs more detail and contrast and so forth, and color, as a matter of fact. And then these, I just started doing the underpainting because this surface is glue, so it's rather slick, as a matter of fact. So the paint the acrylic paint doesn't really absorb into the surface there. So what you do is you have to put an underlayer on, and then you can start building up the thickness of the pigment. And you can see here that the white ink sort of cracked a little bit. So this is going to be surreal. Now I was talking about using the ink in the previous painting, the Rue de Rigole, and I think I'm going to do the lintel part with ink too, and sort of maximize the randomness and chaos. In the previous one, I just wanted to get it done, so I used acrylic because that's what I'm more adept at using, and so I just was like, well, I'm going to get that through. But here now, after experimenting a bit on the previous one, on the other one, the Rue de Rigole, 3739 Rue de Rigole, I've got more confidence that I'll be able to do something effective and interesting. with this aspect. So it's going to be collage, spray paint, white ink for the clouds, acrylic for the chimneys themselves, and then ink, those 6 different inks here, so I can tint the inks. I can mix black and white to make various grades. And also the good thing about it, as I'll show you, is that with using the ink, it's more transparent than using acrylic. As you can see in this portion right here, I've got mixed a bunch of different colors of inks, and you can see it lets the undersurface show through, and so in that way we're going to have a sort of a gradual delineation of different regions, zones of the painting, so it gets more transparent and reveals more of the collaged surface underneath there to begin with. So anyway, that's the plan with that one. Oh, and one thing, I found this book today, The Grand Mysteries du Monde. I was going to, what was it? Oh yeah, so you see on this one I started dropping in the ink on here. That's because usually I take a walk in the afternoon to generate some of that vitamin D, or that hormone D, as you well know, to fight that Wuhan virus. And so I had mixed up the color, and the acrylic dries quickly. So instead of just letting it all dry up, I put it down real quickly on here, and that'll be fine because it serves as an underpainting. Anyhow, so this Grand Mystère du Monde, pretty interesting stuff in here. Let's see what. Oh, okay. So there's one thing I gotta mention. So they're talking about the magnetism of the Earth and early hominids, cave paintings, evidence of like hairy hominids existing codependently or coexisting with man. And then here's one. This is Socrates disait à son disciple Simmias. So Socrates spoke to his disciple Simmias. Mon cher enfant, en vérité, le terre vu d'en haut doit ressembler à ces ballons faits de 12 morceaux de cuir cousus ensemble. So Socrates was saying that viewed from space, the Earth would appear as a soccer ball. So, well, anyway, that's all we got for now. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good Friday. God bless. God save the King.